The Bible has been treated as a holy book for centuries, but what if we told you that it's just a book of history, not about God, but about humankind? But hey, don't shoot the messenger. Graham Hancock reveals the shocking truth about Jesus in the Bible that has shaken Christianity to its core. Join us as we take a ride into Graham's world of shocking revelations about the Holy Book and Christ. As the rays of afternoon sun filtered through the window, illuminating the chaos of books and papers piled high on the desk, Hancock couldn't help but think of how it all began. Little did he know that a small, insignificant typo in the Hebrew interlinear Bible of the most famous Italian religious publisher, Edizioni San Paolo, would set off a chain of events that would change everyone's life forever. For Hancock, it started innocuously enough with a love for ancient languages and a passion for translation. But as he worked tirelessly on the book of Genesis, day and night at this same desk, something unexpected happened. A mistake. The mistake was small, barely noticeable, but it was enough to trigger an adventure of epic proportions. Hancock's pink notebook filled with his first interlinear translation of Genesis held a special place in his heart. And as he reflected on his journey, he couldn't help but be shocked at how a tiny error had led to such a dramatic turn of events. The gods of the Bible, the first printed copy of which lay on top of the towering pile of books, block notes, and paper sheets, was the culmination of years of hard work, passion, and perseverance. Now, for some people, it's crazy to think about how the Bible, a book that's been changed, censored, and rewritten many times over the years, has become the foundation of major religions followed by billions of people worldwide. Hancock believes that the text itself is super fragile and unreliable, and although it's been fixed in some parts, it's still based on old traditions passed down orally and in writing. It's no surprise that some people are looking for signs of an ancient, advanced civilization in the Bible, considering how shaky and uncertain its origins are. What's more surprising, though, is how some folks, the theologians, have built entire belief systems around this questionable text. They've taken it as gospel, pun intended, and created some pretty dogmatic and fanatic ideas from it. For Graham, knowing this truth is key if we want to make the world more accepting and inclusive. Now, Hancock knew that his upcoming book, Gods of the Bible, would be a shock to traditional readers, but he was excited to reveal the truth about a text that's been elevated to holy status. He boldly declared something that would shake the foundations of Christianity in itself. The Bible is not a holy book. Yep, cue to trigger a religious crisis. And if that wasn't shocking enough, Hancock went one step further. He revealed that the protagonists of Bible stories were not just spiritual figures, but materialistic. This realization had the potential to shatter long-held beliefs, but Hancock was determined to play his cards face up and expose the truth. Who knew that the Bible, a text that's been worshipped for centuries, might actually be more materialistic than spiritual? How will religious leaders and their followers react to this revelation? Hancock was determined to test this hypothesis and see where it led him, even if it meant challenging the beliefs of many readers. After all, he believed that exposing the truth was the key to creating a more open-minded and inclusive world. The revelation that the Old Testament is just a local history book about the alliance between Yahweh and the family of Jacob, Israel, is sure to shock even the most devout listeners. Who knew that the most sacred text in Judaism and Christianity was actually just a tale about a single family? But the bigger question remains, who were the other leaders that ancient people considered deities, and what was their relationship with Yahweh? The Sumerians called them the Anunnaki, the Egyptians called them Neteru, and the Babylonians called them Elanu, but in the Bible, they were referred to as Elohim. Who or what were these Elohim, and what was their role in shaping human history? Was it all just a case of different cultures and civilizations coming up with their own versions of the same story? Or was there something more mysterious and complex at play? For Hancock, the truth is, monotheistic theology has deprived us of the possibility of treating the Bible like any other ancient source, to be studied objectively. The priests and theologians claim the right to interpret the Bible according to their theological schemes, but what about the possibility of reading it as it is? Did you know that until the 16th century, the Catholic Church forbade the reading of the Bible without the mediation of an official interpreter? The reason behind this prohibition is apparent today to anyone. When you strip away the theological goggles and read the Bible as it is, the tales within reveal not just divine mysteries, but also gripping accounts of human history. It's like peeling back the layers of a deliciously complex dessert, revealing unexpected flavors and textures that leave you craving more. The straightforward yet subversive approach of taking the Bible literally can unveil a new reality that is both revolutionary and strangely familiar. It's like seeing the world with fresh eyes, as if you're a curious child discovering a secret treasure trove of knowledge. So why settle for bland interpretations when you can savor the rich, untold stories hidden within the pages of this timeless book? The Bible is a feast for the mind and soul, waiting to be savored and shared with others. Hancock firmly believes that the truth about the Bible is not what we've been led to believe. Theologians and religious leaders have distorted the text to fit their own narrow interpretation of God, and in doing so have obscured the true history of humanity. In his book, Gods of the Bible, he exposes the mistranslations and falsifications that have plagued the text for centuries, with the main focus on the identity and character of Yahweh, the protagonist of the Old Testament, and the meaning of the term Elohim. These terms have been translated and interpreted in ways that distort their true meaning. When we read God in the Bible, what we're actually reading is the Hebrew term Elohim, and this word is problematic to say the least. It has been left untranslated in scholarly editions of the Bible, a warning to those who seek the truth. But what is the true meaning of the term Elohim? It is actually a term that describes a pantheon of deities, not just one God. This fact has been recognized by scholars including Professor Mark Smith of Princeton Theological Seminary, who has written extensively on the polytheistic roots of the Bible. Unfortunately, these findings often remain isolated and do not influence popular piety and practice religion. Scholars in this field tend to diffuse their most controversial results to avoid conflicts between theology and biblical scholarship. However, one of the greatest hindrances to reading the Bible may actually be theology itself. In a heated meeting held in Milan in 2016, 4 theologians of different backgrounds discussed the impact of theology on the interpretation of the Bible. This discussion brought to light the importance of unbiased interpretation and the dangers of dogmatic theology. It turns out that the term Elohim in the Bible doesn't actually mean God at all. That's right, you heard us correctly, we've been using the wrong term all along. And if that's not enough to get your heart racing, consider this. The ancient Israelites didn't conceive of their deities in the same way we do today. No, their gods were more like a group of squabbling siblings than the almighty, all-knowing deity we imagine today. Think of it like this. You know how in a big family everyone has their own personality and quirks. Maybe there's a bossy older sister, a goofy younger brother, a wise grandparent, and so on. Well, it turns out that the gods of the ancient Israelites were kind of like that, a diverse group of personalities with their own names and powers. You've got Yahweh, of course, but also Shamosh, Milcom, Astarte, and many others. They were like a dysfunctional family constantly bickering and fighting for power. But here's the kicker. The concept of God that we hold today as a transcendental, all-knowing, all-powerful being has nothing to do with what the ancient Israelites meant by Elohim. It's like we've been trying to fit a square peg into a round hole all this time. Sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, but wait, it gets even crazier. According to the Old Testament, these Elohim would divide up the world among themselves, leaving some satisfied and others feeling like they got the short end of the stick. It's like a cosmic game of Monopoly, but instead of Boardwalk and Park Place, we have Yahweh getting stuck with the Israelites who don't even have a plot of land to call their own. And if you thought it couldn't get any more mind-boggling, think again. The Bible describes an assembly of the Elohim, which implies that there were multiple beings present. Some translators argue that Elohim means judges in this context, but that just doesn't add up. It's like trying to say that the Avengers are really just a group of lawyers in disguise. And here's the kicker, Elohim is actually a plural term. As Hancock believes, maybe we should just leave Elohim untranslated, because the truth is we really don't know what we're dealing with here. In the mysterious and elusive origins of the Elohim, there are no concrete facts to follow. But a tantalizing comparison with the Adamites reveals a stark contrast in biological and technological prowess. Could it be possible that something like a cargo cult occurred in the ancient past, spreading its influence from the Middle East, the Far East, and then the Americas? Imagine the shock and awe of the Melanesian natives during World War II. They gazed upon the white man for the first time, their eyes scanning the skies to witness the American soldiers descending from above with their wondrous flying machines. These natives beheld their potent weapons and means of communication, and in their awe they began to worship these otherworldly beings like deities. Such was their fervor that they created rituals, prayers, and cults in the hopes of summoning the return of these godly Americans. Just like the Melanesians, could ancient peoples have looked to the skies and seen the Elohim as divine figures? Could they too have crafted elaborate ceremonies and mystical practices to summon their return? Well, the pages of history are the only place where these answers lie. There is no doubt that the story of the Elohim is one of mystery and wonder. Despite having no concrete evidence about their origin, people from all over the world have told tales of their superior knowledge and abilities. The question remains, how did different cultures develop such similar stories? In his latest work, Gods of the Bible, Hancock delves into the world of the Elohim, focusing on Yahweh and his relationship with the family of Israel. He challenges the notion of the universality of the Bible and presents evidence that other Elohim existed, each with their own people to look after. These Elohim possessed incredible technology and tools that our ancestors could only dream of. They lived longer than humans but were still mortal, and their abilities seemed almost godlike. Yet they could also be fallible just like us. The clash between biblical scholarship and theology is like a heavyweight boxing match, with each side throwing punches and trying to knock out the other. And let's be real here, the God of the Old Testament is more twisted than a pretzel. Yahweh might have had some impressive powers, but his moral compass was about as reliable as a broken GPS. The things he did in the name of justice were downright sadistic, and his love for the smell of burning flesh is enough to make you want to go vegan. Sacrificial rituals were a dime a dozen in ancient times, but Yahweh took them to a whole new level of brutality. It was like he was trying to compete with the Greek and Roman gods for the title of most messed up deity. At the end of the day, the biblical God might not be the saintly figure that we thought he was. In fact, for Graham, he seems more like a divine dictator with a penchant for cruelty and manipulation. It's almost like we've been reading a horror novel instead of a holy book. The Old Testament is chock full of tales of God smiting people left and right, demanding cruel sacrifices, and generally behaving like a big baby with a God complex. But what about Jesus? Don't worry, Hancock has got some shocking revelations about that as well. Well, buckle up, because this tale is also a wild ride. You see, beneath the holy surface of the Vatican lies a dark and mysterious past. Back in the day, the site where the Vatican now stands was a hub of pagan worship. Can you imagine? It's like finding out that Disneyland was built on top of a graveyard, which, by the way, it was. Anyway, these pagan priests were up to some seriously bizarre shenanigans. We're talking the Twilight Zone level weirdness. And the early Christians were so taken aback by what they saw that they wanted to scrub any trace of it from history. Imagine if your mum walked in on you playing Dungeons and Dragons and decided to erase all evidence of it from existence. That's basically what happened here, or what Hancock believes is what happened. Now you might be thinking, what could these pagans have possibly been doing that was so offensive? Sacrificing virgins, dancing under the moonlight? Nope, the reality is far more perplexing. These pagan rites were so out there that it's hard to even put into words. It's like trying to describe the color blue to someone who's been blind since birth. Nevertheless, we will give it a shot. Let's just say that these rituals involved things like cheese, rubber chickens, and a lot of interpretive dance. It was like a combination of Whose Line Is It Anyway and The Wicker Man, and the Christians were like, no thanks, we'll stick to bread and wine please. Now, you know the Vatican, where the Pope preaches and the faithful gather to worship. Well, it turns out that it wasn't always a Christian sanctuary. Nope, back in the day it was a pagan temple where people worshipped a god-man who sounds suspiciously like Jesus. We're talking about a guy who was born on the 25th of December before 3 shepherds ascended to heaven and promised to come back at the end of time to judge the living and the dead. Sound familiar? It's like Jesus 2.0 but with a different name. And get this, the pagans even had a symbolic meal of bread and wine in honor of their savior. Doesn't that sound a lot like the Eucharist? It's like the pagans were saying, hey, we can do that too. When Graham first started uncovering these similarities, he was flabbergasted. It's like finding out that your ex and your current partner have the exact same birthday and favorite color. It just doesn't make any sense. But the more he dug, the more he found. It was like opening a can of worms, or in this case, a can of theological debate. He had to question everything he thought he knew about the relationship between paganism and Christianity. It was like trying to untangle a ball of yarn, except the yarn was religion and it was a really big ball. So if you thought that paganism and Christianity were like oil and water, think again. It's like they were two puzzle pieces that fit together perfectly. Who knew? After thorough research and some digging, Hancock came to formulate this, the Jesus Mysteries thesis, a theory that runs the traditional understanding of Jesus on its head. You see, he comes to the conclusion that the story of Jesus isn't the real-life account of a historical figure, but rather a myth based on ancient pagan stories. That's right, the Messiah might just be a mashup of pagan legends and Jewish traditions. It's like the ultimate remix, but with religion. He found so many similarities between the stories of pagan gods and the story of Jesus that it's hard to deny the connection. It's like they all went to the same story-writing class. And before you dismiss this theory as just another wild and baseless claim, know that he has done his homework. His research has been meticulous and his sources are extensive. He dug through layers and layers of history to uncover the truth. The story of Jesus is not a unique revelation, but rather a retelling of an ancient pagan myth. That's right, folks, the mysteries of the ancient Mediterranean hold the key to understanding the supposed biography of Jesus. It turns out that the story of Osiris Dionysus, a dying and resurrecting god-man worshipped by many different names, shares remarkable similarities with the life of Jesus. Don't believe us? Well, buckle up because Graham has got some mind-boggling examples. Osiris Dionysus is also known as the Savior and Son of God, born of a virgin in a humble setting and offering baptism for the chance to be reborn. He performs miracles, turns water into wine, and rides into town on a donkey as people wave palm leaves to honor him. Sound familiar? And that's not even the half of it. Osiris Dionysus also dies at Easter time as a sacrifice for the sins of the world, descends to hell, rises from the dead on the third day, and ascends to heaven in glory. His followers await his return as the judge during the last days, and his death and resurrection is celebrated with a ritual meal of bread and wine. But wait, there's more. Not only do the stories match up, but even Jesus' teachings were not original. They had been taught by the sages of the pagan mysteries for centuries. So what happened? It seems that as Christianity became the dominant power in the ancient world, popular motifs from pagan mythology were added to the story of Jesus. If you're thinking this is just a wild theory, think again. The similarities between the new Christian religion and the ancient mysteries were so obvious to writers of the first few centuries that even pagan critics complained that Christianity was nothing more than a pale reflection of their own teachings. But the early church fathers tried to brush it off, resorting to the ridiculous claim that these similarities were the result of diabolical mimicry, accusing the devil of plagiarizing the true story of Jesus before it had actually happened. But let's be real, folks. If there was a real Jesus somewhere underneath all of this, we would have to acknowledge that we know absolutely nothing about him, for all that remains are later pagan accretions. So it's time to face the music. Christianity is not a new and unique revelation, but a Jewish adaptation of an ancient pagan mystery religion. Now, some believe that the story of Jesus was never meant to be taken at face value, but was actually a symbolic code that only the spiritually enlightened could understand. This secret knowledge of God went far beyond the recitation of dogmas and creeds and delved into the mystical mysteries of the faith. But over time, this understanding has been lost, leaving many followers with a shallow, surface-level understanding of their beliefs. But enter the Jesus Mysteries. This groundbreaking work seeks to uncover the hidden truths behind the Christian faith and reveal the mystical inheritance that's been waiting for us all along. With its bold ideas and fresh perspectives, the Jesus Mysteries challenges us to go deeper and truly engage with the spiritual side of Christianity. So if you're ready to unlock the secrets of the universe and take your faith to the next level, then this is the book for you. Have you read any of Hancock's work? What do you think about it? Don't forget to let us know in the comments below.